your comments. President Donald Trump warned Republican members of Congress on Tuesday, which is today, January 6th, 2026, that if they don't win in this year's midterms, then he will get impeached. Now, those of you that have been following President Trump, those of you who support President Trump, and there are many, he's already been impeached twice, but acquitted. So I just want to put that out there first. Trump made comments during a House GOP retreat at the Kennedy Center, recently renamed to include Trump's name by a board filled with his appointees. Next, and we're going to listen to some of that audio of that address at the Kennedy Center, or formerly known to Kennedy Center, now known as the Trump Kennedy Center. In his remarks, Trump also alluded to the GOP's slim majority in the House. Yes, it's dwindling down, and you'll see why momentarily, which is now a 2-vote margin. Not 1, not 3, but 2, after the unexpected passing of California Republican Doug LaMotha, and I do hope and pray that I said his last name properly. My condolences. Marjorie Taylor Greene's early retirement on Monday, though the president did offer a full-throated endorsement of House Speaker Mike Johnson, who was in attendance. A lot of times they'll say, I wish Mike were tougher. Tougher? He's tough as anybody in the room, actually. But you can't be tough when you have a majority of 3. And now, sadly, a little bit less than that. I mean, a little bit less than that. Maybe, Trump said. After a few remarks and speaking with those in attendance, Trump began to speak on the future of the where he wants the administration to go, where he wants the country to go. And they started to speak a little bit on healthcare. It says here, the president pivoted to the Hyde Amendment. A Hyde Amendment, a decades-old provision that bars federal funding from going to ABO services. And he is stating that you have to be a little bit flexible on Hyde. You know that. You've got to be a little flexible. You've got to work something. You've got to work. We are big fans of everything, but you've got to be flexible. So let's look at this really quickly. The Hyde Amendment is a United States legislative provision that bans the use of federal funds for most ABOs applying to programs like Medicaid, Medicare, and CHIP, with exceptions of APE or GRAPE, cyst, and to save a pregnant person's life, enacted annually since 1976. It restricts ABO access for low-income individuals, federal employees, and others using federal health programs, forcing many to pay out of pocket or travel for care, and remains a significant debated policy as seen with recent executive actions and legislative efforts to repeal or enforce it. So that's a little bit of background with that. Next, again, his statement, his warning. Again, not sure if he was 100% sincere or was this a little bit of concern? Your thoughts and opinions. You've got to win the midterms, because if you don't, win the midterms, it's just going to be, they'll find a reason to impeach me. I'll get impeached, the president said. Now, those are strong words. Again, he's been impeached before, twice before, but acquitted. Do you know how many presidents in the United States have been impeached? That's a little bit of trivia for you. President Donald Trump, respectfully, was impeached 2 times during his first term. In 2019, he was impeached on charges of abuse of power and obstruction of Congress for allegedly, okay, keep in mind, these are allegations, pressuring Ukraine's president to interfere with the 2020 election. The second impeachment came during his final days in office after the attack on the U.S. Capitol on January 6, 2021. Again, today marks the 5th year anniversary of that horrible, dark day, another dark stain on the history of the United States, which occurred in Washington, D.C. Lawmakers charged him with the incitement of insurrection. Trump was acquitted in the Senate both times. Trump says, I got impeached twice on nothing. Trump argued on Tuesday, again today, which is the 5-year anniversary of that horrible, brutal attack. To impeach a president. To impeach a U.S. president means the House of Representatives will bring forth formal charges, articles of impeachment against them for serious misconduct like treason, bribery, or other high crimes and misdemeanors, which is like an indictment but doesn't remove them from office. The president then faces a Senate trial where 2/3 vote is needed for a conviction and a removal from office. Now, I asked a question earlier, what presidents have been impeached? And here we go. 1868, Andrew Johnson. 1998, Bill Clinton. Oh, yes, Bill Clinton. And in 2019, first time, Donald Trump. Andrew Johnson, Bill Clinton. Anybody remember her? So this retreat that was held, as I mentioned earlier at the top of the broadcast, was held at the Kennedy Center, or the Trump Kennedy Center. And during the speech, he predicted that he'll be impeached again if the Republicans lose the midterm elections. Another part of this overview was the, again, January 6th anniversary. Next, the passing of Republican Doug LaMalfa, who passed away at the age of 65 on yesterday. And, which I didn't know, Indiana Congressman Jim Baird was hospitalized during a motor vehicle accident, according to Baird's office and the news. And he's 80 years old, but is expected to make a full recovery. So prayers and wishing him a speedy, full recovery. So next we are going to listen to some audio of the address today at the Trump Kennedy Center, formerly known as the Kennedy Center. Again, welcome to those who are joining this late night broadcast entitled Warning, They'll Impeach Me. I'm your hostess, Lise, and for those of you that are returning, good to see you again virtually. And if you're new to this channel, welcome, and I hope that you return. And without further delay, this is fair use. And this is the voice of the President of the United States, Donald Trump.
I want to thank you all, special people. I want to just say that, I announced I was coming over here and I said, I love those Republicans. I meant it. I said, except for maybe a couple I don't love. But the people in this room, I don't.
So he said, already he's starting off in his own fashion. So again, this is courtesy of ABC News and the address at the Trump Kennedy Center, formerly known as the Kennedy Center. So I'm going to show you a little bit of him, and we'll continue.
I don't know if those couple are here. I don't know. I don't care if they're here or not. But we love you. You've done an amazing job. You love the country. You're doing what's right for the country. And I want to wish everybody a happy new year, the most successful House Republican majority in decades. And we did it with not a big majority. Right? That was not a.
Absolutely. Happy New Year to everyone. Happy New Year. And let's again give thanks for a new day always.
Majority, and it's people that know what it takes to make America great again. So together we had 12 months of unprecedented success in 2025, and now we're going to make history and break records with the epic midterm victory that we're going to pull off. This doesn't seem to happen for people to win the presidency. It's an amazing phenomenon. You win the presidency, and we sure as hell are having a successful presidency. I will say that.
Again, in my opinion, and these are just my opinions, that's debatable, but let's continue.
But even if it's a successful presidency, it's been nothing like what we're doing. We had a very good day 2 days ago, too. But even if it's successful, they don't win. I don't know what it is. There's something psychological, like you vote against. You can win by a lot. We won every swing state. We won popular vote by millions. We won everything. But they say that when you win the presidency, you lose the midterm. So you're all brilliant people. Most of you are in. So
it seems like this is a foreshadowing of the clip that I played earlier. And let me play it again for you, for those of you that are just coming in.
You got to win the midterms, because if we don't win the midterms, it's just going to be, they'll find a reason to impeach me.
Let's continue. And again, welcome.
this is longer than me. That makes me smarter than you. Because look where I am, right? No, it doesn't. But I wish you could explain to me what the hell's going on with the mind of the public, because we have the right policy. They don't. They have horrible policy. They do stick together. They're violent. They're vicious. They're vicious people, and they stick together like glue. They don't have a couple of the people that we have.
Violent people. Again, I'm going to pin the live footage that I took today. And again, I'd encourage you to look at some documentaries as it relates to the January 6th that occurred 5 years ago. Let's continue.
Well, people, not too many, really very few. And that's why I want to just say that before we go any further, I want to express our tremendous sorrow at the loss of a great member, great member, Congressman Doug LaMalfa.
Okay, so it's Doug LaMalfa. Again, my condolences, my deepest heartfelt condolences.
Passed away yesterday, as you probably have heard. And he was the leader of the Western Caucus, a fierce champion on California water issues. He was great on water. He wanted release the water and scream at him. A true defender of American children. He was a defender of everybody. Our hearts go out to his wife, Jill, and his entire family. He voted with me 100% of the time. And by the way, he wasn't a 3 o'clock in the morning person. You know what I mean, man? Where the speaker goes, sir, could you call up? Could you call? I said, what time is it, speaker? Sir, it's 3 in the morning. Could you make a couple of calls? How many? 9. So I'd start calling 3 in the morning. I said, I shouldn't use any names. I'm just going to create a problem. But hi, Jim, and I'm not talking about Jim Jordan. I never had a.
Okay, so we're going to advance this a little bit.
Me at the beginning, when we were having little fights, we weren't even having fights. We just didn't know each other. We didn't know each other. And I heard he said something negative about me. He was sort of right about the subject, but you're not supposed to say ever, even though you're right. But Jackie was saying, I'm telling you, he's a great guy. He's good. He's going to be a great president. Blah, blah, blah. She was fighting for me. And now I love this guy. He's great. Jackie's right about, she was right about both of us, I think, right? But Tom has been incredible. He's incredible at what he does. He's a great team player. Your conference chair, Lisa McLean, is so strong and powerful and beautiful. Thank you, Lisa. Thank you. Thank you. And I think their broadcast, we said we don't care if the press comes or not. So when I say that, that means they're broadcasting all this. And I'm letting my feelings out because it's true. I feel that way about so many people in the room. I can say it about many of the people in the room. Some I don't know as well, but many of the people in the room. They're incredible people. You're incredible what you're doing. We also have another one, Richard Hudson, chairman, NRCC. Richard's always in there, always with a smile, no matter what's happening, Richard. He always has a smile. He's always a positive guy, smart, positive thing. Appreciate it. You do a great job.
So he's giving flowers right now to people. Again, the most important part of this address was this morning right here. Let's continue. And again, welcome to those who are joining.
You can't give it to an auto. And you can always tell an auto pen. One thing, it has 2 little tiny dots. You know that? 2 little dots. You know what that's? 2 pins. There you go.
So right now he's speaking about an auto pen.
to sign it. And the law is you have to sign it. If somebody's, telling the auto pen person, he has to be authorized by the president of the United States. Well, he wasn't. The guy barely knew the president. How many times did you speak to the president, right? You said 2. And they just spoke about the weather. It was like this. But he was never authorized to sign. And I think it's, 95% of the things were signed by auto. You can tell because the auto pen is a nice clean signature and his signature is
So you said 95% needs to be actually signed. Your thoughts on that? We're going to take a quick break and we'll return. Again, thank you all so much for tuning in to Trump's warning that if the Republicans do not win the midterms, he will be impeached. Again, your thoughts thus far. We'll return shortly. Okay, we are back with Warning, They'll Impeach Me. I'm your hostess, Lise, and this is the voice of the President of the United States, Donald Trump.
It was broken by 112 pounds. He couldn't get 1/8 of an ounce, They put speaker that put an eighth of an ounce on. She's gonna break the record for her mom. And she's out there. We're adding 1/8 of an ounce to each side. This record has stood, ladies and gentlemen, for 18 years. But she's gonna do it. She's looking to get Olympics, right? She gets up and put a little tiny thing like this, little thing. And my wife, by the way, my wife hates when I. She said, she's a very classy person. She said, it's so unpresidential. I said, but I did become president. She hates when I dance. I said, everybody wants me to dance. Darling, it's not presidential. She actually said, could you imagine FDR dancing? She said that to me. And I said, there's a long history that perhaps she doesn't know. Because he was an elegant fellow, even as a Democrat, right? The attack by Japan, he was quite elegant, but he wouldn't be doing this. But
This is about to be hilarious. So for those of you that are able to view this, hold tight.
nor would many others. But she says, darling, the weightlifting is terrible. And I have to say this, the dancing, she said they don't like it, they're just being nice to you. I said, that's not good. The place goes crazy. They're screaming, dance, please. But the weightlifting, but no, it's and you see, I want to be more, but I have somebody watching. I want to be more effusive. I want to really, but she gets it.
Again, ladies and gentlemen, this is the President of the United States being animated. Exclamation point.
Drops the thing, walks off the stage crying, her mother's crying, her father. Guy gets up and have you lifted before? A little bit. And he walks up. Could have gone. I think it was 112 pounds. Huh? It's crazy. For the beautiful boxer, they're boxing. And then have a young gentleman who transitioned to a good boxer, but he wanted a woman.
So he's talking about transgender now. So again, prayerfully, no one is offended by any remarks you may hear. Moving forward.
Each his own. Because I want to be very liberal when it comes to these subjects. Trying to get that vote. It's not an easy.
So he just said he's trying to get he's trying to get the liberal vote. Okay.
It's very tough for me to get. But he transitioned. And he's transitioned. And the girl was a champion boxer. She got up first round. He hit a boom with a left. The left, for those, everybody here knows better. A left, Lisa knows better than anybody. But a left is defense. Because boom. You walked in the corner, remember? She didn't go down. She did everything else. She said, I've never been hit like that before. I don't want to go out again. You can do it. You can do it. Bang. You walked off. She said, he happened to win the gold medal, that young woman. Won the gold medal. We're two transition people. They both won.
So he referred to them as transition people. So again, that's President Trump who's speaking right now earlier at the Trump Kennedy Center, formerly known as the Kennedy Center. Again, what was a warning to Republicans that they must win the midterms or that they'll impeach him.
You got to win the midterms, because if we don't win the midterms, it's just going to be, I mean, they'll find a reason to impeach me.
Your thoughts and opinions. Do you think there is a possibility that President Trump can be and will be impeached again? Your thoughts and opinions. And we're back, and this is warning. They'll impeach me again. This is audio and video, courtesy of ABC7. As Trump speaks at the Kennedy Center, the Trump Kennedy Center, formerly known as the Kennedy Center.
Could also be 90% and 80%. There's two ways of calculating. I don't know if you know this. Trump exaggerated. There are two ways of calculating. But calculate it at 80, 90%. But the other way is more accurate, like 900%, because that's what it really is. But there are two ways. But use be generous, 90%. There hasn't been a reduction in 28 years, except for the 1 year where I got it down 1/4 of 1%, and I had a news conference. I was so proud of myself. The drug prices, prescription drugs, are going to be down.
So now he's going into this diatribe about prescription drug prices, and I spoke last night how, at least for me, I personally have seen an increase. But again, that's just me. So let's continue.
Thousands of points, thousands. On that one item, we should win this election. The New York Times barely wrote about it. The other papers barely wrote about it. Nobody even knows that the drug prices. Now, people will say, how did, you don't mind if I don't read this crazy telephone? Just, you mind? Because I have it's called standard, but these things are so important because you guys got to get elected. Because if you don't get elected, we have a country that's going to go to hell. So we can't play games. Don't you see?
So you just heard him. He said we cannot play games. Let's continue.
Gentlemen, the sun will rise tomorrow, and when it rises, we don't need this bullshit. We need to talk about favored nations. And your numbers are coming down at levels that nobody's ever seen. We inherited high prices. We inherited a mess. We inherited the greatest inflation in history. And
that can be debatable, depending upon how you may have been affected or others may have been affected. But again, that's debatable. Your thoughts and opinions on that? No, yes, I can agree that each administration, I'll be fair, each administration inherits something.
You know what was the bad economy that we inherited bad. We now have the hottest economy.
Now, he has said this many, many times that we have the hottest economy. Again, I don't know if I agree with that. Some of you may. I can't say I agree with that 100%. No, I can't.
We have $18 trillion being invested in the United States. You have everyone who
Where is it though? We've heard this before, but where? Where is it? Just continue.
AI plants of all different types. So because of tariffs, I hope we get the good ruling from the Supreme Court. I hope we do, because it's given us tremendous national security. So let's finish up, because you know I weave. If you ever weave and don't come back to the point, then you say, but when you weave and you go here and boom, 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 always coming back, then you're in good shape. But what's happening is by doing what I did, we're getting numbers that are so low. What did I do to the countries? I said, France, healthcare, prescription drugs is going to go up triple. It's going from $10 a pill, just as an example. I called it the fat drug. You could say the fat drug, Ozempic. Ozempic is.
Now, I'm sure many of you have heard of Ozempic by a show of ones in the chat, or those who may catch the replay. You can just say yes. Have you heard of Ozempic? Do you know of anyone who has used or is using Ozempic? That's if you want to share.
$80 in London, and it's $1,300 in New York. The fat truck.
So again, President Trump has he's called this the fat drug. I'm gonna have to clip that one up, but he's called that the fat drug. Let's continue.
He said, what the hell is going on? A very rich guy, but he said the fat drug doesn't work on you. Why are you even taking it? The drug has failed miserably, but he's a very loud, boisterous. He's not a bad guy, not a great guy. Smart as hell. But he's a very rich guy. This drug, he could have paid millions for it. It wouldn't have mattered. But he said, in London, I'm paying $80. In New York, I'm paying like many times more than that. What the hell is that? Because of what's happened? Because the nation's held us back. So the drug companies, I had made a deal with them. You're going to do it. He said, whatever the nation's will a bigger profit than the company. So I said, you tell me they'll never agree, sir. He said, 100% they will. 100%. He said, sir, the smartest guy, Eli Lilly, Merck.
Everyone remember Eli Lilly, Merck? Back in 2020, for those of you that remember, something happened. Something happened that begins with the letter P and some other things. Eli Lilly, that name should be synonymous with many things, as well as Merck. Let's continue to listen to him talk a little bit about that.
Pfizer, oh genius, they're all making numbers you wouldn't believe.
Oh yes, if you've done your research. And funny thing about a lot of those companies, you will see a lot of their parent companies, their sister companies or subsidiaries in and around Bethesda, Maryland. For some of you out there who may not be familiar with Bethesda, Maryland, that is one of the homes to the National Institute of Health. And it was a central hub of let's just say, the one-stop shop for certain medication as a result of the 2020, I'll just say, health crisis. Look it up. National Institutes of Health in Bethesda, Maryland. As a matter of fact, fun fact, for those of you who may not remember, President Trump took ill several years ago, and that is where United States presidents will go and other important individuals that they'll go to the NIH. There were people who were actually on the side of the road, Rockville Pike, northbound, I believe, just yelling and screaming as if they had seen a king. And there were people that had actually referred President Trump as king. So I just wanted to add that fun fact in there as it relates to these companies, these pharmaceutical companies, and National Institutes of Health. Do your research. You might find something interesting.
Defense contractors are making more. That's why I'm going to say, you're making $45 million a year and you can't produce a freaking helicopter for 7 years. We're going to talk to them about it. But I said to the France, I call them as an example. France, just as an example, I like him as an example. Emmanuel, you know Emmanuel Macron. I love the French accent. Emmanuel. He said, listen, you're going to have to raise your prices a little bit because we're paying 14 times more than you. It's a lot, right? We're paying numbers. In other words, we're making up for all of this deficit. No. Mr. President, excuse me. Most people call me Mr. President, except for people that don't respect me. Which are probably a lot of them.
Now that was actually funny. Let's continue.
They said, no. Who calls me Mr. President?
I bet he does. So we're going to take a quick break and return momentarily to warning. They'll impeach me. Thank you for those that have stopped by and for those who are still here. Thank you so much for the engagement.
You got to win the midterms, because if we don't win the midterms, it's just going to be, I mean, they'll find a reason to impeach me. You got to win the midterms, because if we don't win the midterms, it's just going to be, I mean, they'll find a reason to impeach me. You got to win the midterms, because if we don't win the midterms, it's just going to be, I mean, they'll find a reason to impeach me. You got to win the midterms, because if we don't win the midterms, it's just going to be, I mean, they'll find a reason to impeach me. You got to win the midterms, because if we don't win the midterms, it's just going to be, I mean, they'll find a reason to impeach me.
And we're back. Again, courtesy 87 News. This is President Donald Trump, who is discussing several things for the future 2026.
And I'm not sure that I've ever said anything. You know, I say a lot of things and have a lot of good ideas. And this was an idea that, I mean, the whole world went crazy. The whole country went crazy. The world went crazy with envy.
You know, he just said the whole world went crazy with envy. So let's get
somehow do that, Mr. Speaker,
Video.
all of you see, you can do that. You're going to have, this is going to be your issue. And the other thing is fertilization. They're trying to hit us on fertilization. They were dead on fertilization when I got a call from a very wonderful young senator from Alabama saying they had just lost the case. And the case, I've never been met with such scorn. Friends of hers was going crazy. And I said, explain the issue to me. It was on IVF fertilization. The judge ruled against it. Said all fertilization places have to be closed down like immediately. It would have been a disaster. And fortunately, I picked it up, and we owned the issue. But now I understand they're trying to make a case on fertilization. You can't let them. Very important issue. All of these issues are very important. But you can own healthcare. Figure it out. Let the money go directly to the people. It goes in a healthcare account. There are numerous things you can do, but you have to let no money for the insurance company. You're not going to meet with the insurance company. They said I'm not meeting because they met with a prescription drug company, and that's when I found out what was going on with the fact that we were paying 10 and 13 and 14 times more money than Europe and other places.
So we're going to end that there and see what happens to health care, because there's been a lot of talk about the Affordable Care Act or Obamacare and how these subsidies are impacting so many people. So again, welcome to Warning, They'll Impeach Me. And let's review really quickly again. A little bit about impeachment and your thoughts and opinions. So as I mentioned, there was a passing of Congressman Doug LaMafia, and there has to be a special election according to Newsom. Let's listen to a little bit of that audio. Again, that is courtesy of ABC News 7. And let's listen to that clip.
Days, but his office isn't saying when he might plan to hold that election, and the timing has political impacts. With Congressman LaMalfa's death, the balance of power in the U.S. House of Representatives stands at 218 Republicans and 213 Democrats. That's why Democratic strategist Steve Maviglio and Republican strategist Tim Rosales both say a lot rides on the refilling of LaMalfa's seat.
I think
So again, please pay close attention to this conversation.
that neither party wants to give up the possibility of a seat, and particularly a seat like this. And given this dynamic that we have now, I do think and expect Republicans to compete for it kind of in the near term for the special election, because there are several important votes and things that come up all the time.
So it's up to the governor. He could probably call an election in March, I think might be the earliest date.
So we're at January 6th, and they're giving March. That's interesting, but let's continue.
And then perhaps have the runoff in June.
Okay, so January, March, and then he's suggesting a possible runoff in June to fill the seat for this special election after the passing of LaMatha. Let's continue.
That's possible, but not probable.
Maviglio says Governor Newsom might stall the special election as long as possible to avoid giving the seat back to a Republican.
LaMatha was always a very solid Republican vote for the speaker on everything. So if the governor can push this out so the Democrats have a little bit more of an advantage, I think he will do that.
Your thoughts? Is it a possibility that Governor Newsom could indeed stall this out for the efforts of not giving the seat to the Republicans? Again, your thoughts and opinions on that.
Possibility is Governor Newsom aligns the special election primary with the midterm primaries in June. It's also possible Newsom aligns the actual special election with the regular midterms in November. So whoever wins the special election could serve as little as about a month before the candidate elected in the midterms gets sworn in next January. In other words, the voters in LaMalfa's congressional district may go without representation for most of 2026.
Really, who loses, and I think who is going to.
That is crazy. Let's continue to listen. Without representation for almost all of 2026, I think there's going to be some pushback on that. Your thoughts and opinions in the chat. What would you feel about that? To go without representation for almost an entire year. Again, that's not necessarily going to happen, but you heard the suggestion, the possibility. Let's continue. And again, greetings to those that have joined, and good to see you virtually.
Bear the brunt of this, obviously, are the people who live in that district.
As for who will run, Rosales says, from a strategic standpoint, it makes sense that anyone wanting to run in the midterms also throws their hat in for this special election.
It's an opportunity a couple ways. One is, I think, the financial thresholds and the money that they can raise for each election expands. So with the financial limits that you have in a federal race, it really elevates the amount of money that they can potentially raise and then potentially spend in terms of advertising.
And it might not attract a lot of top tier Republicans because it's a seat that they'll only hold literally for months.
So your thoughts and opinions thus far on what could happen, because Newsom has to call a special election after the passing of LaMatha. Again, that is courtesy of ABC 10. And we'll get to another audio. Again, welcome to Warning. They'll impeach me if the Republicans do not win the midterms.
You got to win the midterms, because if we don't win the midterms, it's just going to be, I mean, they'll find a reason to impeach me.
You voted for this president 3 times. Is this what you voted for? Not only
So next, we're going to listen to some parting words by MTG, also known as Marjorie Taylor Greene. This is courtesy of CNN, Republican from the state of Georgia.
one of the few Republicans that stood by him early on when the rest of the Republicans turned their back on him. I also campaigned all over the country for him and attended many of those rallies where the campaign promises were no more foreign wars, no more regime change, and putting the American people first. Caitlin, those are the things that I believe on and have stood on in principle, not only in principle, but by actions as well. I never voted to fund Ukraine. I never voted to fund any of the foreign wars. And I worked hard to get rid of foreign aid and funding foreign governments and foreign people. That's what I believe in. However, it is concerning to see what's happening and the direction that the Trump administration is moving in. We can say, thankfully, that Maduro has been arrested. We can say we're happy for the Venezuelan people, but we can also look to all the regime changes before in Iraq and Libya. Those countries fall into turmoil and civil war, and we've watched the rise of ISIS and terrorism, and we watch U.S. troops remain in those countries.
Okay, your thoughts and opinions thus far on the statements of Marjorie Taylor Greene as she makes her exit. Let's continue.
For a very long time, and many flag-draped coffins come home. And that's what many Americans don't want to see happen. And tonight it is disturbing to see the latest news coming out of Venezuela, where there is chaos and possibly some sort of civil war or sort of chaos and disruption happening. And we care about people, but we care about our country too, Caitlin. And to me, America first is what matters most, and the American people matter most. And I believe the focus should be strong domestic policy to help Americans afford life, afford health care, health insurance, be able to buy a home, an affordable home.
Again, that was Marjorie Taylor Greene with some parting words, your thoughts and opinions. And we will be back momentarily. And we are back with Warning, They'll Impeach Me. I'm your hostess, Lise, and we are going to another video and audio. This time, this is courtesy of DRM News. Again, DRM News. And this is going to touch base with Hakeem, Jeffries, Bennie, Thompson, and Jamie Raskin. You don't want to miss this audio. Again, Hakeem Jeffries, Bennie Thompson, and Jamie Raskin. Again, courtesy of DRM News. Again, welcome to Morning. They'll Impeach Me. I'm your hostess, Lise. Fair use. And this is the voice of Representative
Thank the distinguished chairman for his leadership and for convening us this morning on this very solemn, important occasion. Before we begin, in light of the passing of Congressman Doug LaMalfa, great member of Congress from the great state of California, we'd just like to ask for a moment of silence. Thank you. Thank you all for your presence here today on this solemn anniversary. 5 years ago today, a violent mob incited by Donald Trump attacked the Capitol as part of a concerted effort.
The views and opinions on this broadcast are not necessarily that of Google, YouTube, nor any of its affiliates. Just wanted to make sure I put that disclaimer out there because I'm positive that there will be many who disagree with the statements of Senate Minority Leader Hakeem Jeffries. Let's continue.
To overturn the results of the 2020 presidential election and halt the peaceful transfer of power for the first time in American history. This bloodthirsty, treacherous mob brutally assaulted police officers and seriously injured more than 140 brave men and women of law enforcement. Many have suffered lasting physical and psychological damage.
That's absolutely true. And again, I would encourage you, for those who are interested, to view some of the documentaries out there. There were people that actually deleted themselves after this horrible, horrible stain on American history. Let's continue. Again, this is Senate Minority Leader Hakeem Jeffries. And again, welcome. Welcome, everyone.
Several tragically lost their lives. Because of the extraordinary bravery of the U.S. Capitol Police, other law enforcement officials, and the resolve of the Congress to return that night. This unprecedented attack on our country and on our democracy failed. Over the last 5 years, instead of holding those responsible for the attack accountable, Donald Trump and far-right extremists in Congress have repeatedly attempted to rewrite history and whitewash the horrific events of January 6th.
Now, let me do a hard stop right there. I was actually in Washington, D.C. today. I'm a D.C. native, and I actually saw quite a few of those in support of J6. There was a permitted side, and again, my live will be posted for those of you that are interested, where there was a couple incidents where there was an exchange of words between those in favor of the J6ers or justice for J6ers and members of law enforcement. So those of you that are interested, I'll have that pinned for you. Let's continue to listen to Senate Minority Leader Hakeem Jeffries.
We will not let that happen. On the first day in office of his second term, instead of fulfilling his promise to lower the high cost of living on day one, Donald Trump pardoned hundreds of violent felons.
And there were a couple that I noticed today that I believe wholeheartedly were there on that fateful day 5 years ago, and I was able to capture them on film. One actually said he was there, and he was one of the ones that had a little exchange with law enforcement. But let's continue.
Who brutally beat police officers while storming the United States Capitol. The criminals and thugs that Donald Trump pardoned have flooded communities across the country, unleashing violence and mayhem. The crimes committed by those rioters before and after the violent insurrection include child sexual assault, production of child pornography, possession of child pornography, rape, conspiracy to murder FBI agents, kidnapping, sexual assault, aggravated robbery, reckless homicide, driving under the influence causing death, illegal possession of firearms, domestic violence by strangulation, burglary, vandalism, grand theft, stalking, violation of protection orders.
Your thoughts and opinions thus far on what Hakeem Jeffries is stating that those who were pardoned, their backgrounds prior to and after. Let's continue.
Threatening public officials and drug trafficking. It's been a Trump-inspired crime spree.
No, again, I cannot sit here and say that this is a President Trump-inspired crime spree. Do I believe that there are things that could have been done to make things different? Yes, I do. But I could say that for many people, not just our president. So that statement right there, I can't just jump in 100% and say, Jeffries, you're 100% accurate. I cannot do that.
Why won't Republicans in Congress condemn this dangerous behavior, an ongoing threat to public safety? They refuse to serve as a check and balance on an increasingly out of control executive branch, preferring to be nothing more than a reckless rubber stamp for Donald Trump's extreme agenda.
Okay, we're going to stop right there for Hakeem Jeffries, and we'll go to another speaker. One moment, and thank you, and welcome. The next voice you'll hear will be that of Bennie Thompson.
Let me note, as we've already indicated, the passing of our colleague, Congressman Doug LaMalfa. Our thoughts are with his family and staff at this sad time. Good morning, and welcome to all who joined us. I want to extend an especially warm welcome and thanks to the brave members of law enforcement who are joining us today. They protected us, they protected the Capitol, and they protected the democratic process. We can be here today because they were here then. Thank you. I'm also honored to rejoin my colleagues on the January 6th Select Committee, both on this panel and among our witnesses. 5 years ago today, an armed mob of thousands, incited by President Donald Trump, attacked, breached, and laid siege.
And again, the thoughts and opinions of what you are hearing are not that of YouTube, Google, nor any of its affiliates.
To the United States Capitol. They did so as Congress was carrying out one of its most fundamental constitutional duties, counting electoral votes, certifying a presidential election, and facilitating the peaceful transfer of power. What unfolded that day was both brutal and calculated. Officers.
That right there, that statement, as I mentioned during my live today, I absolutely agree with wholeheartedly. It was, in my opinion, it wasn't carried out just by those with that much passion and that much loyalty to our president. It was more than that, in my opinion. Let's continue.
Was stabbed with metal fence stakes and bludgeoned with flagpoles. They were.
So I don't want to go too deep into that, but I want you to hear some of the audio. This is a trigger warning, what you're about to hear. So some of you, you may want to leave at this time. And let me put my viewer and listening discretion disclaimer out. Again, this is a trigger warning. Let's continue.
Back to that day. DC is a motherfucking war zone. Give you 12 help to help maintain the line.
These are some images of the brave men and women of the MPD. And do you know, that's what someone said, do you know that I saw a gentleman draped in an American flag, just as we saw in that little clip right there. So I'm going to advance that, but I just wanted you all to see just a little clip of what happened 5 years ago. 5 years ago. Let's continue with Bennie Thompson.
It was one part of ensuring our constitutional republic could withstand President Trump's repeated attacks, and it offers lessons for today. One such lesson was seeing how important it was for officials, most of them Republicans, to put their country over their party. They remembered their oath was to the Constitution and not to one man. And we need to remember that lesson today, because 5 years on, the danger has not dissipated. President Trump still refuses to acknowledge that he lost the 2020 election. Many who promoted or litigated his big lie have been rewarded with powerful positions.
Your thoughts and opinions on that. Do you believe that people have been rewarded with positions? Let's continue. This is Bennie Thompson.
Of nonpartisan career prosecutors and FBI agents who worked on January 6th cases have been summarily fired. State election officials who stood up.
And I might add really quickly that Kash Patel is named in a current lawsuit as it relates to, I'll just say, unconfirmed, to be prudent and responsible, named, as well as some other individuals and entities as it relates to the employment status of said agents. Let's continue. This is the voice of Bennie Thompson.
To the Trump pressure campaign have been faced with threats and retaliation. The Department of Justice has become an instrument for retribution. The message is clear. Uphold the rule of law and you will be punished. Only loyalty to one man will be rewarded. Violence in service of Trump is above the law. Remembering January 6th is not an exercise in partisanship. It's an obligation to those who have sacrificed for this country and all those who will in the future. Democracy depends on the courage of those who will defend it and on our willingness to hold accountable those who wish to destroy it.
Okay, we're going to stop right there and get to Jamie Raskin. Again, welcome to Warning, They'll Impeach Me. I'm your hostess, Lise, and again, thank you so much for your engagement. Please remember to double tap your screens, or depending upon the device you're listening to, give this a thumbs up. Comments are welcome. Just please be respectful to the hostess, again, which is me, Lise, and those who are in the chat with you. Thank you.
For power and the vice president on J6. So it's been 5 years since January 6th. It's been 3 years since that plaque was supposed to be put up, but they still haven't put it up. It took them 24 hours to put up a new plaque allegedly changing the name of the Kennedy Center to the Trump.
Now, as I mentioned, and what you saw earlier was President Donald Trump speaking at the Kennedy Center, formerly known Kennedy Center, now the Trump Kennedy Center. Let's continue.
Trump Kennedy Center, 24 hours. And that was illegal. That's like graffiti that was put up on.
Your thoughts and opinions on that. Do you believe that memorial has been defaced? And as Jamie Raskin is saying, do you believe it's graffiti? Or was the name change warranted? Your thoughts and opinions on that as we continue.
The Kennedy Center building. They have a legal requirement to put it up, and I call on Speaker Johnson to put it up today. It's gathering dust in a closet somewhere. Thank you, Leader Jeffries. Thank you, Chairman Thompson, for not surrendering to the Orwellian project of forgetting, but rather insisting that we remember. Long after we are all gone, future generations will speak the names of Hodges and Dunn, Gunnell and Fanone, Sicknick and Pinget. They will be remembered as the great patriots that they are. and the people who smashed them in the face with Confederate battle flags and Trump flags, the people who tried to destroy our constitutional order, will be remembered as fascist traitors to their own country. So we must remember 3 rings of sedition that took place on J6, the realm of the coup, the realm of the insurrection, and the realm of the mob of violence. The coup was anchored in months of the big lie. Trump claimed to have.
Okay, so he's getting ready to go into his perspective of what exactly happened and what led up to it. And he has coined it as a coup, as many people have. Let's continue. Again, this is the voice of Jamie Raskin.
Won an election. He lost by more than 7 million votes, 306 to 232 in the Electoral College. He needed to get MAGA followers to simply disregard reality and facts and dismiss more than 60 federal and state court decisions that had rejected every claim of electoral fraud and corruption that they advanced in courtrooms across the land. This was critical because the president understood that lies would be the fuel for violence. As Voltaire said, anyone who can make you believe absurdities can make you commit atrocities.
Your thoughts on that powerful statement? Let's continue.
Well, the coup depended also on coercive pressure campaigns, trying to force state election officials to just find me 11,780 votes. Coercive pressure campaigns to get DOJ to endorse the false claims. Just say the election was corrupt and leave the rest to me and the Republican congressman. The recruitment of counterfeit electors, the plot to bully Pence into rejecting electoral college votes.
Now remember, Nancy Pelosi and Mike Pence, along with others, their names were actually on notebooks that they were seemingly targets of that angry mob that you heard him speak of. Let's continue.
From swing states and either just declare Trump president or kick the whole thing into a contingent election in the House. So that was the coup part of the operation. The second layer out, the realm of the...
Okay, your thoughts and opinions on that. Again, let's listen to this quick statement.
You got to win the midterms, because if we don't win the midterms, it's just going to be, I mean, they'll find a reason to impeach me.
Let us remember
insurrection was the Proud Boys, the Oath Keepers, the Three Percenters, the muscle. And these were the white supremacist, violent groups, white Christian nationalist groups that had trained for weeks or months to get ready, staging confrontations in state capitals as dress rehearsals for what was to happen. The Proud Boys came to D.C. twice in the lead up to J6 and provoked brawls with anyone that they would describe as Antifa. They organized in military fashion, and they were dead set on attacking the police, storming the Capitol, and stopping the steal.
And for those of you that are familiar, that was one of the chants. Stop the steal. Stop the steal. That was chanted by both women and men 5 years ago, January the 6th, in Washington, D.C. at the Capitol.
So as ferocious and violent as the organized insurrectionists of maybe 600 or 700 were, they could not have succeeded without that third tier of sedition, the mob itself, the mob riot. After Trump convinced the organizers to change the date of their rally from January.
Now, again, I do not have anything to say for sure. What is being stated by Jamie Raskin has been proven. If someone actually knows that in the chat, please put that in there. Again, I cannot say that it is accurate. It may be, it may not be. I cannot say it because I am not aware of it. So let's continue.
20th, Inauguration Day, to January 6th, the electoral count day. He then went on social media to recruit tens of thousands of mob extras to back up the.
So again, these are statements that I cannot say that I am in agreement with because I have not heard it. I wasn't there to witness it. So I'm just sharing with you what said in the broadcast earlier with Hakeem, Jeffries, Bennie, Thompson, and this is Jamie Raskin.
Proud Boys and the Oath Keepers who would get the fight against the police started. And you know, Trump kicked it off with the famous tweet saying, "Be there, we'll be wild," which set the MAGA Twitterverse on fire. Well, it all culminated, of course, with his speech on the ellipse where he said, "You got to go and fight like hell, and if you don't, you won't have a country anymore." So the attempted coup, the insurrection, the mob violence converged and exploded on J6. Today, we analyze the shocking resurgence of political violence in this century, its relationship to propaganda, misinformation, and disinformation, and the threat that it poses to American constitutional government. We honor the heroes who helped us to defeat this attack on our democracy.
Okay, so we're going to end that right there and take a quick break and we'll return. Thank you so much. And we are back with the warning. They'll impeach me. This is your hostess, Lise, and this is courtesy of the New York Post. The voice you will hear next is that of United States President Donald Trump.
Because if we don't win the midterms, it's just going to be, I mean, they'll find a reason to impeach me. I'll get impeached. We don't impeach them. You know why? Because they're meaner than we are. We should have impeached Joe Biden for 100 different things. They are mean and smart. But fortunately for you, they have horrible policy. They can be smart as can be. But when they want open borders, when they want, as I said, men and women's sports, when they want transgender for everyone, bring your kids in, we're going to change the sex of your child. Just send them our way. In some cases, like in Minnesota, they don't even tell the parents. Is that right?
Okay. Is this a prediction? Is this a foreshadowing? Or is just this Donald Trump being Donald Trump? Just continue.
Nobody believes it when I say it. I think we have 6 states. Nobody, am I correct? Okay, Tom Emmer said yes, so. But it's true. Where the kid comes back, they keep the kid. They operate on the kid. They don't tell the parents. It's not believable. We have great, solid common sense policy. They have horrendous policy. What they do is they stick together. They never have a no vote. They impeached me. I never knew I was going to be impeached. I get a phone call. You just got impeached. I said,
so he's talking about he didn't even know. I'm not going to be disingenuous, but I had to admit that there are times that he is absolutely hilarious to me. And I don't think he's doing it on purpose. I think it's just who he is. Let's continue.
what does that mean? It took them 10 minutes. They impeached the president, who did a damn good job. I rebuilt our military, Space Force. I got everything. I did a lot. They impeached me for nothing twice. For nothing. Fortunately, you were on our side and we were unanimous. And the second time, the few people in this little group, like Rice and this, they're all gone. Every one of them is gone, except one that we're going to sort of let ride with. Some guy that has a state that you might as well just let him ride. But think of it, everyone's gone. Everyone's gone. It makes me feel so good. I don't want to feel vicious, but I'm so happy that everyone. And they're seriously gone too. They lost in landslides. This guy named Rice, he lost by 48 points. Right? Remember him? Oh no, there he is. What a job you did, Mr. Fry. Congressman Fry. I looked around for somebody. It's true, this was a good choice. We've made some bad choices too, because you have to do it. I said, who the hell can run against this guy Rice? It was a Trump plus 40 district. They had riots around his house that night. You know, he voted, I vote to impeach. And that night they had riots. So they said, who the hell? Just give me somebody. A warm body.
Let's continue.
And then, no, it has to be a living, breathing person. And then if I could get a genius, it would be good. And we got a guy who is so good. He's been, I think, are you happy with him? I think so. Stand up, bro. He's great. I said, where does he come from? He's like a senator, state senator or something. I said, all right. I spoke to him one time. I said, you're accepted. But little did I realize how good he was. You did a great job. You've done a great job, and the people love him. So he has done a great job. I just want to say this. I haven't read one word on this thing. Who the hell else could do this? And I think I gave you something. It's just a roadmap. And it's a roadmap to victory. You have so many good nuggets. You have to use them. If you could sell them, we're going to win. Because we've won 2 races in like 50 years. It's, for whatever reason, I don't know why, but just don't fight it. It doesn't make sense. There've been 2, and they were unusual circumstances. So whether it's a Republican or a Democrat, whoever wins the presidency, the other party wins the midterm, and it doesn't make sense because we've had.
So we're going to stop right there. Those of you that want to hear that in its entirety, you can go to the New York Post. So this is part of the program where I like to grab comments. And Jacob says, you don't need a crystal ball for that. And Bino says, at least he knows that. And let's grab a couple more. Mike says, don't get scared now. And Lego says, you gotta win the midterms. Gee, who those tariffs demolished the economy, turned LinkedIn to crickets and tumbleweeds. And Sydney says, I would support the Republican Party, but in Trump's first term, I was denied my right to appeal. So if they cannot support the Constitution, I cannot support them. And let's grab a couple more. Rook says, sorry, Trump getting Senate can impeach. It doesn't make sense. Maybe there was a typo. Sorry, Trump getting Senate can impeach. I'm not really sure what Rook is trying to say. And Purin says, the economy is cooked. The job market is cooked. The dollar is cooked. The national debt is cooked. The housing market is cooked. And this guy focuses on becoming George W. Bush, MK2. So, again, your thoughts and opinions on if there's a possibility that President Donald Trump could be impeached if the Republicans do not win the midterms. Again, let us review really quickly. The statements earlier today at the Trump Kennedy Center, formerly the Kennedy Center. Again, let's listen to the president on this quick clip.
You got to win the midterms, because if we don't win the midterms, it's just going to be, I mean, they'll find a reason to impeach me.
Bro, we broke up with you for a reason. Donald Trump is like an old boyfriend who you broke up with, but he just won't go away.
Thank you so much for tuning in to tonight's broadcast. Warning. They'll impeach me. I'm your hostess, Lise. Please remember, if you would be so kind, to double tap your screens, or depending upon the device you're listening to give this a thumbs up. And for those who may catch the replay, any comments? I hope those that joined, those who may be on the road, the trucker guys, trucker gals, first responders, those who may be doing security, or just looking for something to listen to. Thank you so much for tuning in and engaging. Please have a beautiful, pleasant, and safe night. And God willing, I'll see you again virtually.